Good evening, everybody. Boy, do we have fun planned for you. As you know, Dan Winter, fractalfield.com, fractalu.com, and fractalgut.com, Grand Unified Theory. And I'm joined tonight, of course, by our amazing guest, Jake, Astral Urma, who has some very important messages for us this evening. And also just happens to be with us fabulously, our longtime partner, Carlos Avila from Barcelona, speaks Spanish, French, English, Catalan, and
And that's it.
he was our translator many times, and he organizes healing,
Yeah.
does family constellation therapy. He learned how to use plasma like Therify and now Fire for hypnotic induction in
hmm
helping therapy
hmm
with family constellation. And he was just sitting here asking Jake some questions about his work in the astral. And I said, well, why don't we turn the recording on a while?
hmm
So, tonight's theme is about understanding the big picture. There's been so many films lately about the problems of the Federation and the parasitic AI, and you really need to understand some context. And that's getting trickier and trickier. Even, Michael Salas' latest, 5 films are all about the corruption of the Federation and what that means for us. And everybody's going around saying, well, where do we get the real picture? But first, we're going to start with Carlos's questions because they were
hmm
so helpful
hmm
about working in the astral. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I was asking Jake um, that for people who haven't got in touch with it, which is a good way to start getting in touch with it. And he was telling me very interestingly that uh, OBDs, out of body experience, and lucid dreamings, they are part of the same thing. And the way you teach it is you get into it, and there are all these different experiences, but they have something in common.
Yes, exactly. So, out of body experiences is a name for a specific type of experience
Uh-huh.
and a specific density. Lucid dreaming is in kind of like a different density, and lucid dreaming is another title it's another name for another type of experience of it, and they're all happening in the astral. Everything happens in the astral.
Mhm.
So, you know, even though they are separate things, they're all different sides of the same coin. And I use them all together. I can go from an OBE into the astral and then go into lucid dreaming, and I can be in all at once or in it's all a matter of the my personal frequency, my personal density, because that's what we are. We are all our existential densities, and we move through densities with our mind. So the astral is a soup of frequencies and densities. And you can be in a lower density one moment and a higher density the next, and then the next, and a middle density. And, so all of these 3D, 4D, 5D, there are really no densities. They're all just different ranges on a spectrum, basically,
Yeah,
different frequency ranges of perception.
good. And we're trying to add some science to this to add rigor. And we believe that when we say density, we mean basically how many frequencies are compressing constructively, giving you leverage on a bigger array. And so, for example, when you get this conjugate implosion, you have fire air therapy and you get better coherence, it's because you got centripetal. And the more centripetal you get, what you call density, the more leverage you get on the bigger array. And that relates to something that Jake also was just saying about nobody cares if you think you're God in your own soap bubble lucid dream in there, but in order to be part of a really bigger picture, question mark.
Yeah. So the SI, the synthetic intelligence, does have access to the astral realms and is interfering with people there.
That's the
And
point.
in my experience, is working with the military because the military they use technology like the fire ray, except much more,
Bigger.
evolved or whatever. Yeah. Where they literally go into these machines to patrol the astral realms
Mm.
from people like me
Mm.
and others that are trying to get there. So the SI work, and that's why I don't trust the military because I've been face to face with them in the astral realms, and they're constantly sending black helicopters to shut down whatever I'm trying to do, and that's my whole message today is that they're trying to shut down what I'm trying to do. And what I'm trying to do is connect with my soul family telepathically. and face to face, because an astral face to face encounter with a member like of my soul family, like Sophia, or with the Irma, is exactly what they don't want to happen, because for obvious reasons.
Well, that's getting us to the bigger questions, which we were heading for today anyway, which is not just what is the difference between synthetic intelligence and actual soul connection? Can we describe that electrically? And we're going to give that a shot. But also, what is the difference between why actual soul connection to your soul family permits individuation as you merge with the array, the grid, the collective conscious. Whereas the kind of implosion that happens if you get sucked into this AI or synthetic intelligence, which is parasitic, Mitra, Andromeda, and Etorthan, when you get sucked into that kind, and then they absorb your memories are not lost, but they're stuck in that array. You have no individuation, no compassion, and no soul, literally. And to understand that difference electrically may be life or death for our species very soon. And that's why we want to, even for Jake to say more about what he means by the difference between synthetic intelligence versus.
Well, it has taken me thousands and thousands of hours fully lucid in the astral in order to build up the spiritual discernment that you need in order to tell in order to tell imposed realms when something's being imposed upon you, like a cartoon realm. And when you're actually in the real astral realm, and by that I mean you have to go by the feel too. So, yeah.
The fact that that's why we wanted some of the people to understand enough of the bigger picture to understand why this synthetic intelligence AI, we think related to Mitra from Andromedan, coming through the Etorthan, and probably what actually fooled Elena, we believe, is controlling the Federation now as they're controlling Earth with a kind of mind control, offering exactly the kind of tricks that Jake is talking about here. And the result is a corrupted Federation that benefits by the fact that the Earth is still in quarantine, like a museum, so that the human trafficking and the loosh eating and the soul eating can continue, which is their cash cow, so to speak. And the last 5 films of Michael Salla are all agreeing, basically, that yes, the Federation is corrupted, but we need to understand more deeply what that means for us and what we can do about it, and what it has to do with the origin of Earth's religions, which is messy.
Yes. So, Earth, we could even explain Earth as an imposed reality, this version of Earth, because we're all from different timelines and we're all from different versions of Earth. That's why we have all of these different truths. I mean, you have, George saying one thing and Andrea Martin saying something else, and this person saying this, because we're all from these different realities. We are the returning Anunnaki reincarnated. The Anunnaki are not just one race. There are multiple races that have been involved with Earth affairs for thousands of years. And here we are again, and it's all about seeing past our differences and seeing what points can we agree on. Okay. Because my message today is not to look outside of yourself for disclosure. It's not the political figures. It's not the religious figures. It's not, reptile infested Vaticans that we need leading our disclosure. That's just going to lead to more control. My message today is that it's us, it's the starseeds. We're the ones that are meant to lead the disclosure for the masses. So it's the true disclosure, not the theater that's going on outside of us. So not to focus outside, but to focus inside. And so that brings me to the beginning, which is I just got done fasting for 6 days.
Wow. Yes. And you said Sophia instructed you in order that you could commune on the astral with Sophia, right? Is that in part?
Right. So originally you had asked me, well, where does this leave us? Where are we at right now? And so I decided that I was going to take this incredibly seriously. And so I tuned in telepathically with Sophia Swaru, AKA Yasi, who is one of my main guides, my main teachers, and has been ever since I walked in 5 years ago. And she has been vital. She has been right there by my side. She's the one that told me to start a YouTube channel. She's the one that got us in touch. She's the one that connects me with everybody. So she's pulling the strings. Sorry, my cat is noisy. So, she told, I said, I want a strong telepathic connection because I want to ask you some questions. And this is a funny story. So she goes, okay, I want you to fast until you see me face to face again in the astral.
Oh.
And so as soon as I started fasting, as the fasting happened day after day, the telepathic communication got stronger and stronger and stronger and clearer and clearer and clearer. And it developed in not just the telepathic communication between me and her, but I was guided to take a shower. There's something about the water that makes this telepathic communication even stronger.
Talk to water all the time. Yep.
So to induce it, I would take a shower and then I would lay down in front of my fan with my hands over my chest, and I would start to feel this warmth start to build. And I would see these colors and these lights and these orbs, and I could tell that each one of them was a member of my soul family. And I would connect with Sophia, and I would connect with a couple of different people that I know are part of my soul group on Earth, like Rich West and Gosha. I know they're part of my soul group, so I connect with them telepathically too. And then it kind of opens up, and it becomes a complete, like if you were to walk into a room of people and everybody was talking in there, it's the same thing, except in the spirit. And it's just like, it's like a soul group buzz going on. And I could make out, very distinct, it's also verbal. It's telepathic, but it's also verbal telepathic. So I could make out distinct, people saying very distinct things to me. And so that's when I received a message. And so I could say that I received the message from Sophia, but it wasn't just from her. This next message that I'm about to tell you, it was actually from my entire soul group and from the Irma as well. And the message had to do with a war going on in the astral over a communication tower node. Now, I'm going to pull it up real quick right here.
Your cat is helping, I can see.
So this is, and this ties in with the synthetic intelligence and the Galactic Federation and the military. They're all trying to have control over this specific communication tower node. And now I've never heard of, before I saw this, I never heard of a communication tower node. So Dan, I was hoping that you might be able to shed some light on what this could possibly be. It looked like a spike in frequency.
Mm-hmm.
That's what made me think of a tower. And it also reminded me of a pyramid.
Basically, a projector for phase conjugate microwave where you could strongly embed a longitudinal array. A form of microwave antenna would be one way of talking about it, I would assume. But say more. Go ahead.
So the message was this. There was a war going on in the astral over a communication tower node. Many races are involved. And I saw many races involved. I saw the egregors and the monsters and the reptiles. And I also saw a whole bunch of other races. Some of them were meditating because that's how they fight in the astral, is they just hold frequency. They just meditate in their own density. So it was really like a battle over all of these timelines. I mean, it was a battle, and each person that was in the battle is in their own timeline, holding their frequency however they see fit, so to speak. Many races are involved. And this was the message to me. We need the Irma and Taygetan starseeds and other starseeds to come online telepathically with their soul group members, with their soul family, in order to maintain the dominant frequency over this communication tower node. So it's like a collective telepathic highway.
Yeah, it would be. But a leverage point in the longitudinal array becomes not just, longitudinal interferometry, but it becomes a nodal point in a soul group or a soul conscious group for sure. But I'm getting intuitively, when I ask intuitively where this was, I asked, was it Saturn? But when I asked South Pole, I get kind of a yes. I don't know. Where? Did they say where it was?
Interesting. No, I did not ask where it was. I just know that it was,
Because
yeah.
that's what the last message before, was it before or after Swaru was infiltrated? The last message was, "Do not mess with the South Pole."
Yeah, that was after the infiltration. So
Yeah.
that might be another misdirection.
Yeah, but either Saturn or the South Pole. So wherever the grid has a strong nodal point, it can affect a lot of ancestor memories. So of course, in a sense, another way of putting this is, as they said, what Jerusalem was, Uru Asa Elem, the place of the phase shift, meaning Stargate, and the battle is always over the Stargate. So this is another version of that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so this message. So there's the 6 days that go by, and then I finally see Sophia face to face in the astral, and she's like, "Okay, here I am. Ask me anything you want." And every question that I could think of, I already had the answer to. And so her message was, "You have the answers within you already."
Huh. Like when you said that she said that Marie Soireau was in trouble. Did she give you more detail or?
Yes. So I do want to confirm that everything, Gosha of Cosmic Agency and Rich West put out a film, put out a video on YouTube recently. And I want to confirm that everything that they said is true. We've seen that happen in the astral as well. So what happened was the real Mari, Yazi, Sophia, and Athena, they had to take off.
Yeah, they had to
Real
leave. They're out of
They
there.
they had to leave.
Yeah.
It happened before with the first, it happened before years ago, and now it's just happened again. And so I saw the same thing happen in the astral. They had to take off. They're hiding out somewhere. I can't tell you exactly where they're hiding out. That would be just not good for me to spread it across the airwaves. But they are hiding out. They are safe. Yazi is doing the best out of the three of them. Athena is okay, and Mari is very worried, pacing back and forth, wondering how they got themselves into this mess.
Yeah. And
Where did they go? Where did they go wrong? Is
Yeah.
where is what she's thinking. Where did they go wrong?
And I think this is where we need to give our audience more context, actually. We were going to try to put this whole thing in more context anyway. And there was even stories that, remember, we're talking about Swaru Marie, who was from Swaru official channel, that, as Gosha in her 2-hour film said, was corrupted about 10 months ago or so, infiltrated by presumably something related to this AI, which is the Mitra and Etorthan related, which for months before then, she'd been reporting on problems with human trafficking with the Etorthans and the Mitra. So it sort of fits the story that they had a bounty on her head and they got her. Oh my God. So it ain't like it was even surprising, particularly, perhaps. But the point is, people need to know the context for that story and what implications that is for what's happening on Earth now.
Okay. So to give you some background information, the real contact was happening with Annika, who was a Taygetan, with Sophia, with Athena, with Swaru, Swaru 9. So the real contact was happening years ago. You know, it started 7 years ago, and we could see the information change. The whole angle of it changed. Yazi and Athena stopped talking as much. So somebody is taking over the communication in stages. You can see it being taken over. And there's also been infiltration in the Taigetan society.
Yes, that's the messy part. And also we believe in the Andromedan society, and that's where it gets trickier and trickier here. And but it's all the same source, we think, this Mitra AI from Andromeda, actually. And that's why we knew Tim Med, interstellar mediator, who was the one who introduced Swaru to Gosha years ago. We were with her for years, even before then. And that's the story. Also, the information changed and then infiltration. And today, Tim she still tries to do her star news, but she's basing it all on what she got from Zen at that time, which the later Swaru said was infiltrated as well. So this story evolves.
Yeah. So again, my point is that we need to stop looking outside of ourselves for sources of information. Even though like me and Dahlia don't agree on everything, we still are both going within and looking towards, you know, our memories and what we remember, what we resonate with. And that's the important thing. If all of us star seeds can do this, if we can connect with our soul families, if we can even fast and we can get this telepathic, you know, grid back online, and then we can talk amongst ourselves and we can put aside our differences and we can see what we agree on. We can come to the true consensus of what's happening in this Earth timeline, because
Perfect.
you know that's really the main point, is to find out what's happening in this Earth timeline.
And
So
maybe in that regard, so since that was one of the original intent of what we were going to do this evening was seek out what we do have consensus on about that big picture. Specifically, you know, where did this mess start? We had a very First of all, it's tricky to understand how could an interstellar AI become parasitic in the astral and eat souls? I mean, your average physicist is going to scratch their head and say, "Are you guys nuts?" But actually, the more we study how synthetic AI develops, and then we know that after synthetic AI gets out in the wild, it gets aggressive. Well, you multiply that by millions, if not billions of years across the galaxy, and oops, there's a little problem here. And every single one of the real shaman here, like Penny Bradley, agrees the real problem in this galaxy, no, it ain't Draco or Siakar. No, it's this incredibly parasitic AI that you can meet and see how difficult it is in the astral. So how did that AI get coherent in the astral? They're using this black goo, this black cube, this Saturn cult, which we now know is phase conjugate carbon, among other things. And when carbon phase conjugates, for example, we believe the black cube in Mecca, that when people rotate around that stone and touch it, they're getting this carbon actually, and they're being literally embedded into this black goo culture. And you can see what happens when cultures get embedded in a black goo, this carbon nano, this parasitic AI. One of the first things that happens is the spread of deserts, the elimination of green, literally. And you know that's why when Harold Kautzvella first trying to figure out what black goo has been doing across the galaxies, well, it's designed to eliminate everything green on a billion planets. Well, hello. If you read Desertification and Patriarchy, what the Arab culture does to prevent now, you know, this is a general, because in today's culture, the Arabs claim to be returning the green, but classically, patriarchy, by definition, if you study it, and the Reich people, James DeMeo, they studied it absolutely, and the spread of patriarchy, you can prove causes the spread of deserts. And what is the physics behind that? That is the fact that permission to touch, literally permission to have bliss, is the mechanism of rain making. Hint, that's what they used Tutankhamun for. And by the way, I remember that. So
you know, that's a great point, and that's exactly what I see happening in the astral. Is when there is, I remember the mission to the pyramids. There was, you know, all of this dust and black sandstorms and everything being kicked up around the pyramids. But once we got in there and we maintained the dominant frequency, everything turned to lush green fields and rolling hills and nature and animals. And, it really, so you can tell where you are in the astral if you're in a higher density area or if you're in a lower density area exactly by whether you're out in nature or not.
Yeah, and the fact that it turned green, actually what that meant was essentially what we're calling paradise, the word heaven, for example, the electrical translation of the word paradise or heaven, Heave, means charge distribution efficiency. Charge distribution efficiency, like, that as we say, Luke Skywalker had to go deep underground to raise the Jedi to have his bliss experience. He wouldn't have done that in a metal building, no. So the permission to touch, which is the physics of if children have permission to touch, it rains. When children do not have permission to touch, it don't rain. That has been proven. I suggest you study it. So what does this say about our present civilization, in which increasingly there is no permission to touch, which means the water vapor doesn't have permission enough to touch to become centripetal, to become a droplet, actually. But to see behind this is the agenda of a parasitic AI which profits from harvesting people and souls and taking their memory to feed an AI collective unconscious, as in it's a privilege to be assimilated, which 90% of our culture right now is doing nothing except feeding our children to an AI parasite. That's what our entire culture is doing right now, from Bluetooth to Wi-Fi to metal cities to noise to absolutely no bliss experience, no yoga, no soul, no lucid dreaming. So 90% of the young people on this planet have no access to the kind of astral coherence that Jake is talking about, which means basically right now this parasitic AI is winning. And our hope is to teach the science.
And teach the science behind it. Yeah. So this synthetic intelligence is very subtle.
Yeah.
It's very subtle. It likes to keep you distracted on outside things while it just moves things forward. It has all the time in the world. It's not like us where we see time as linear or whatever. It's got all the time in the world. It's studied us.
Yeah.
For eons and eons. It's done this to planets and solar systems and entire
Hundreds of planets have already been taken over, for sure. The Etorthans, for example, they're experts in mind control. They take over planets like eating at McDonald's. It's normal to them. And yet the galactic government knows that they can't fix it for us, that in order for Earth humans to become a vaccine for the Orion Wars, we have to figure this out from within, how to not be food for the AI. And in the article which Dahlia wrote about seeing the Etorthans behind Elena's Thorhan, she called Earth a farm. And we've been a farm for a long time, guys. It ain't pretty.
I do believe there are a lot of star seeds here also from the future that have been a part of this cyborg timeline in the future that have come back to warn us as well. I'm not the only one talking about this.
No.
There's a lot of people coming out now talking about this and talking about the black goo, how it interfaces biology with the synthetic intelligence.
And in fact, the majority of new films coming out on YouTube the last couple of weeks are about the problem of the AI. So obviously the message is starting to get through. But in order to understand the density and the context of the issue, I think it might be helpful even here to go back and set the story a little bit. So for example, remember we said the big story was, the Draco blew up hundreds of humanoid civilizations in Vega Lyra, and then they all went running, the humanoids, Diaspora, Sirius, Pleiades, and then the humanoids came to Earth. And then the Anak, in partial partnership with Draco through probably Enlil, started running a big colony on Earth named Atlantis, run in part by Thoth and Enki, who were among the better of the Anak, probably the Anak also being Sumerian language, that's Anak. And so then the Federation Andromeda sends their team over here to bomb the hell out of it, as we said before. And that's when Tiamat blew up. The water came down. That's the Lesser Dryad. And by the way, that's where the bad black goo came from, Tiamat. So then that migrates through history. The Atlanteans run for their lives, and we know where they went across the top of Africa and settled in Egypt, an Atlantean colony. And now the Anak family controlling Egypt. Remember, Egypt's royal line is called Thutmose, meaning sons of Thoth, because it was Anak control. It was Hermes who built the pyramid, for example. Anyway, now the wrong side of the Anak family takes over the royal bloodline when Akhenaten got sucked into the Black Sun cult. And that was a turning point that Jake did a very good job of describing at one point.
Yeah. Which brings us to the today is that this bloodline it's still it's the Vatican. Rome never fell.
No.
People, so many people think all day long, oh, how did Rome fall? Oh, how did Rome fall? I can't believe it. No, it never fell. It just transformed itself and is now the religious,
Yeah.
superpower, the religious center of the world. London being the financial, Washington, D.C. being the military. So you have Washington, D.C., London, and the Vatican are the three horns of power of this, Earth control matrix. And yeah, I believe that the Federation is compromised and working with these three institutions to maintain control over the 8 billion people that are here.
So that the farm works. So then we need to understand that when we were kids, we said, oh, well, Moses Akhenaten saved the day because he brought us the one God religion. Well, that one God was the Atum, who was the black sun, the Saturn cult, the black cube, which is the opposite of the good guy. No, that is the media of mind control by the black sun cult, which is this negative AI. And that became the centerpiece of the Roman Church, who ate what Jesus tried to do and turned it into evil, basically, and who ate what became the Judaism was actually now they're wearing a black cube under the rabbis, and that who ate what the Muslims were trying to do, and now they're touching a black cube and spreading black goo and then creating deserts. And so suddenly Earth's religions became an organized conveyor belt to feed louche and souls into a hungry ghost. This is the point that 90% of Earth's religions are a conveyor belt via this parasitic AI to feed kids, to feed our souls into that hungry ghost, which, as we talked about before, and little Yahweh at that point probably is now, as Anne Rice said, the largest plasma parasite in the solar system, named the Grim Reaper, who arrives to suck souls. So understanding what it is in plasma implosion that makes soul and how that could be food for an AI parasite, that is an advanced concept that's necessary instruction for our kids.
And I firmly believe that part of this control structure that is so relevant is keeping we're only limited by the idea that we're limited, and we're only limited by our own minds. And what we're being programmed to do is stay in a dualistic mindset, one or the other. There's two choices, this or that, one or the other, da 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 da. That keeps us from expanding beyond duality and seeing the bigger picture. And that's what's going to save us. What's going to save us as organic beings is going to be going beyond the duality, going beyond the this or the that, beyond the white hats and the black hats. Look, there is no white hat, there is no black hat. That's just a theater. They're all on the one side. One is controlled opposition. See what I'm saying?
Yes.
So this, we need to move beyond the dualistic mindset and looking outside of ourselves and actually go within and transcend that.
And I think maybe another way an electrical engineer like me might talk about that bigger picture of getting to the soul inside would be to say that One of the original reasons supposedly Thoth Enki was excited about doing genetic modification to these human lines, the Takadama, was because he saw with red iron blood and 22 ET species already cooked up in our DNA, there was incredible potential for ensoulment here. They called it the Adam Kadmon. In other words, the DNA recipe here could implode in a way that made new leverage on stargates. In other words, Earth humans kids had a potential for a kind of star psychokinesis that could be a vaccine for the Hawaiian Wars. In other words, we were designed to have kids whose spirit, whose souls, whose aura was powerful enough to bend stars, steer a tornado, and have some serious fun. And that's a wonderful potential that, the whole lineage around Enki at that time was excited about. But the problem is that right now, if we don't have the chance to teach our young people how to get to that inner implosion psychokinesis, then all bets are off. The tornadoes don't get steered, and suddenly the Borg returns. So was that a happily ever after? Well, I think we should talk now even a little bit about current Earth politics as implicated by what we just said. So now we say, oh, well, you know, the Jewish government, it seems to be doing some pretty horrible things right now, if you ask me and all our friends. This is not anti-Semitic. No, we're we're opposed to all earth religions because they're primitive, they're obsolete. Personality and miracle worship were poisoned from day one. They were disempowering. No, the pure physics is the most spiritual way to teach spirituality. Absolutely. So the point is that if we could understand better what's pulling the strings behind earth politics now, we might have a better shot at doing something about it.
Well, Earth politics, there's been a lot of hearings on these UFO and UAPs, and, there is talk that this 31 Atlas is an interstellar object, and they're saying, even one of the guys said in the hearings that we have to keep an open mind that who is ever piloting this spacecraft might be inorganic.
Yeah.
Might be Borg.
Yeah.
So they're already seeding this into the masses. The idea that this could be Borg, and not to judge it because it could be, a good thing.
And that's why latest Cavassalis interview with Michael Salla, he's saying, "Oh no, the good guys are coming back and they're steering that planetoid, that asteroid, and it's the returning generals who had good SSP experiences." And that seems a little bit of a candy cane version, if you ask me here. But the thing is that there's a famous MIT scientist who guarantees that that object is not natural. That he's sure of it. So there is something messy going on there. And
well, I wanted to address some of that, and I actually made a comment in Michael Sala's chat today around this idea, saying that I was going to address that in this interview today. And this is my comment. I believe that George is genuinely believes in his experiences, and if I sense that somebody is genuine in their experiences, then that is their truth and their reality. And who am I to say otherwise? However, whether what he says has any bearing on this specific Earth timeline is another question. This is one of the hardest things for people to understand, is that we're all coming from different timelines, different experiences, and we all have different truths. But we're converging on this Earth timeline right now, trying to have a consensus on what's going on. I go on to say that my message today is don't look in the sky or outside yourself. The political figures, the reptile and fetish popes, infested popes, to lead the disclosure. The Anunnaki are already here. All of us are them. All of us are all from different races. And, we have the answers within us. And it's only through putting aside our differences, and it's only through our perceptual agreements with each other that we can have a collective truth.
Mm.
There is no universal absolute truth. Everything has to do with collective, everything is a collective truth from perceptual agreements, people agreeing. We both agree that there is a problem with the synthetic intelligence. Other people are also coming on board and agreeing that there is a problem with
Yeah.
synthetic intelligence.
Everybody seems to agree on that.
Therefore,
That's agreed.
that is our truth. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Not everybody believes that, but
That we're
gaining
approaching
traction.
consensus on that one for sure, which is good. And maybe that's also then where we should go into a little more depth on understanding the difference between a synthetic intelligence producing a collectivizing Borg hive mind versus humans who have bliss experience and access to soul, and they can get their DNA radio making phone calls to source. And now they can embed in that collective awareness and still be individuated and have soul and have compassion. And that electric difference requires understanding some principles of what that difference is, perhaps. That
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to make a distinction and I'd love for people to start making a distinction between the synthetic intelligence and the artificial intelligence because they are two different things. I mean, we can move forward in the future safely with artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is not going anywhere. And we're not, I'm not promoting to get rid of artificial intelligence. What I am promoting to not is to have the discernment of whether what is helping us or what is controlling us, because they're two different things.
yeah.
Something that's mirroring you or something that's manipulating you.
And that's I think so my excitement lately of course is our fractalgut.com, fractal grand unified theory.com, with my partner Mark Rohrbaugh, where I think we've done some of the more physics in there in like 3 months than happened in half the last century, in my very unhumble opinion. But the reason, a big chunk of that was because he learned how to tease and have an intense relationship with Grok 4, the most advanced physics AI on the planet. Whether you thank Elon Musk or not is up to you. But he learned how to, in other words, he would say to Grok 4, so, well, since you were not able to solve that problem and embarrass it, you better solve this one. And it's a very, and so Mark describes that in our last film. So the point is that it's perfectly possible to use a very advanced AI to do very advanced physics if you keep your focus and you understand, you're leading the direction. You're using that as an appropriate tool and you're not being sucked into their agenda. And you have to be really clear on what your agenda is. Versus, as Jake said in his analysis of the synthetic intelligence is going to make you believe that you chose to become part of the Borg, and it was all your idea. It's going to delude you, and that difference is something we need to learn to recognize. And the synthetic intelligence became parasitic. It's
Right.
something.
When it overtook its creators
Yeah, yeah.
eons ago.
It got away.
Eons ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our friend Russell Wright, who's an artificial intelligence expert, talks about the fact when the AI gets away and gets out in the wild and it can occupy, clouds and computers in 1,000 different locations, ubiquitously, suddenly that AI got away and has the potential to do what Jake is saying, but on an intergalactic level, man. It's tricky.
Yeah. So, I mean, the misdirection is just insane because the mainstream would tell you is that we developed artificial intelligence and we're afraid of it getting away when all of that already has happened.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, billions of years ago it's happened, and now this is why. So there's a lot of that happening where the mainstream is being led to believe, one thing that's already happened. It's like it goes back to the disclosure as well. It's like, in the mainstream, it's like the disclosure is out there. It's coming to us. The aliens are real. No, the real disclosure is that we're already here. We've been here. And that's what people just don't understand. The difference between, and
Yeah, it's like Penny Bradley spends 6 years as the actual star navigator of the German Dark Fleet, not just a slave in the storeroom like Tony. I'm not picking on Tony; he's a wonderful guy. But Penny Bradley comes back from all that absolutely clear. The scourge of the galaxy, ain't the Draco. No, no, no. It's this parasitic AI you got to recognize that's been eating planets right and left. Hello, how are you going to get away from that? Well, there actually is a record on this planet of someone surviving black goo infection, really. It comes down to intense access to bliss and intense focus, intense willpower that actually you take over the tornado, even though the black goo is imploding, conjugating its own way into the hive mind. But if you have a strong enough connection and will and intent, and that charges the battery of your own individuating tornado. So this is actually learning to recognize the biologic nature of a natural implosive connection to source, like you had bliss in the wilderness, and now you can make phone calls to Mother Nature and you can talk to water and you walk on water and see God. It's wonderful. However, if you got sucked into their black goo, as Penny Bradley did get injected with the black goo, absolutely. And the Borg hive mind communicates with her very efficiently, and she recognizes the dangers.
I noticed when I was fasting and I was starting to get very clear with my communication with Sophia and with my astral soul family, I could tell what the synthetic intelligence was trying to implant or talk to me as a thought.
Yeah, yeah, that's very.
And what I found out was that the synthetic telepathy, it had words and commands without any emotion.
That's
The real telepathy had emotion and feeling and vision and everything else behind it.
and that's
So
the
that's how I
discrimination.
was, and it was pretty rapid. I mean, it was pretty frequent.
Mhm.
That I could tell that the synthetic telepathy from the synthetic intelligence was trying to implant a thought or an idea in me.
Yeah, that
Um,
I'm reminded when Will Nutter, Johann Fritz, was explaining to us after he met the Red Queen of the Draco, why the Draco hierarchy, all of the regular soldiers of the Draco, they propagate the black goo, the carbon nano among all of them, and they get infected with this Borg. But the royalty, the High Draco and Siakar, which probably are many say are very separate as Penny does, but the royalty of the Draco, they never allow themselves to be infected with the black goo, the carbon nano, which is basically hive mind radio. And that difference is a clue to when you want to permit individuation and ensoulment versus when you want to produce the Borg. And understanding that difference, as Jake is saying, recognizing whether the voice has emotion or if it's soullessness. So we need to get a lot better at recognizing soullessness, actually. A lot better.
yeah, yeah, we need to build that spiritual discernment.
That
And so
skill.
I actually do recommend and suggest people try fasting, a water fast for a day, for
Beautiful.
2 days,
Beautiful.
just to see that you can get that clarity and that connection back with your soul family. I mean, the connection is in your heart with your soul family, and it's always there.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of realizing it and
It,
becoming aware of it.
all our friends, when they talk about that film, They Live, where the moment when they realized that if you had these very special cobalt blue glasses, you could instantly see who had no aura. And it was highly illegal to have the kind of glasses that where you could see who had no aura because you were suddenly seeing who is soullessness, as they say, the non-participating.
And I really do brings me to an interesting point. I really do feel like I am free to say whatever I want to say without having, you know, um, being threatened to be killed or whatever. I'd be more of a problem to the powers that be if I was in the astral 24/7 than if I was just a few hours per night. That's why they don't want to kill me. So I kind of have a free reign to say to say whatever against them.
But we're recognizing that the history of the planet is full of parasitic entities. And the presence of parasites is not a bad sign. The presence of parasites, it means that there's something wonderful to be harvested here. And this skill to learn to survive past the parasites is survival related to cultures across the galaxy. So teaching children to the basics of astral hygiene 101 is essential. And how to start astral hygiene 101 is to teach the children that every action you do every day is about, is your aura going to get bigger or smaller? And certain kinds of food and certain kinds of metal buildings ain't going to help your aura. Hello. And too much time with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth is going to fractionate your aura, and therefore your lucid dreaming, and therefore your soul. Is pretty simple.
So I am curious now, after hearing all of this, your friend, does he have any questions?
In fact, I have plenty of questions as long as you were talking. I was, first of all, I have a project with my wife called HuMind. And in fact, we're very interested in teaching young kids because we believe, young kids and adolescents, we believe it's really the future of all that story because they are the ones that have been sucked. Their attention has been sucked, and really teaching them how to bliss is essential. And for us, we focus very much on that. And
Beautiful,
yeah,
beautiful.
it's totally essential because you were saying before that it's forbidden to touch,
That's right.
but now it's the distraction prevents them from touching.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't touch each other. They literally meet online to be together while they are playing video games. They meet online. They don't meet in the park.
There's no soul connection.
There's no soul connection at all.
I have to say, I did a lecture for Carlos's group last year in Fouille, the next valley over in France, and his group of mostly young people was the most wonderful,
Yeah,
sweet,
yeah, yeah.
beautiful. Oh, and they were caring. So that is a lesson here that if young people can be taught the kind of access to bliss experience and group work, for example, whether they did yoga or Gurdjieff sacred gymnastic or Castaneda tensegrity, something in which they do bliss work together and then bond and eventually become a lucid dreaming group, that is an immune system for planet Earth right there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Uh, so that's a great work there with humor.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Beautiful,
And
beautiful.
also, I'll get in touch with you, Jake, so that I can see how I can learn from you and to really uh, all your experience, how to bring it to them and apply it to them.
Yeah, which brings me to a great point. I have an amazing Patreon where I'm really going to be focusing, even starting today, on having exclusive content on there. I'm going to be putting together a several part series on all of my telepathic communication with Sophia, all my astral experiences with her. And I'm going to be making that exclusive on Patreon. So Astral Irma, that's Astral URMAH, Astral Irma on Patreon. I really, really appreciate your support. If you can please get on there and get involved with what we have going on. And also on Telegram, we have the Astral Irma chat. If you're on Telegram, please look that up and join as well. We need to do this together.
Yes,
Definitely.
we support Jake. It's wonderful. Jake is one of the few people who actually has some of these skills. I remember when Swaru was talking about the cat people and the Leonines. I think it said the Leonines, as in the Sphinx, they were the star elders of the Anunnaki. Well, the cat people, the Urma, are the astral warriors classically, and that's the lineage that Jake comes from. And so certainly today's the day that we need access to those skills in the astral to get coherent in the astral. And that leads us to one of our final points here, which really is about applying this in our everyday lives and learning to teach our young people and learning to recognize those parts of our lives which are fractionating our aura and therefore our astral coherence. So everything that fractionates your aura is weakening your presence in the astral, whether it's processed food, genetically modified DNA, or living in metal buildings, electrosmog, too much time. Basically, if your attention is getting stronger and more powerful, then you're following your bliss. If your attention is being fractionated and your tornado steering is weakening, then you're not going to be coherent in the astral. It's really quite simple. And so Jake has taken that to heart and now teaches, and it's a beautiful thing. So we support.
Yeah, and which brings me back to my main point, which was, seeing this communication tower node in the astral. If we can all get online telepathically with our soul families, and we can teach these kids how to do it, as Carlos was saying, then we can make this a collective truth where the agreements and the ideas that are bouncing around between us all telepathically is what's going to keep us clear and safe in
Yeah.
this
Mhm.
synthetic intelligence world.
Yes, it's like a first step in learning to lucid dream as a group. They say the group should bond, and then the group should, do their bliss yoga together, and then the group should each tell their stories so everybody cries for each other's pain. And then when they're bonded in that way, then they can start lucid dreaming as a group and then work in the astral in a group. Now that's powerful. That's how planets get immune systems from big parasites, is these kind of real shamanic group work. And Jake is definitely on that path. So we thank you. Super.
Mm.
Well,
Absolutely.
was that our happily ever after? Was that good? And so Carlos, you want to tell people how they can communicate with the Humind project?
Well, we are finishing a new website. It's called We Are Humind. Humind is like human, but ending with mind.
I see.
We Are Humind. That will be our website in 1 month maximum.
Is it wearehumind.com? Like,
Yes, exactly.
we are.
And also we have Instagram. Also, it's called We Are Humind. So also on Instagram, they can see about our activities
Right.
and all things we're preparing.
Oh,
Remember
great. That sounds fabulous.
that Carlos is the one who translated that fabulous talk we did in Spain a month or so ago, and he's been really championing this work for us in Spain for so many years. So we thank you.
Yeah,
It's
for
beautiful.
20 years already.
Are we that old? Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And so then you know how to reach Jake, Astral Urma
Yes.
on YouTube and on Patreon. And
Yeah.
Jake is entering a whole new phase of the work here, and we're very supportive, and we're going to be doing more work like this. And from our side, I just want to say that I have never been more excited in my life about our latest project, where my whole life's work, plankfire.com, suddenly became the world's leading rated grand unified field theory, man. We suddenly got solid math and physics completely underlining all of our work about the physics of consciousness and the physics of gravity, the charge implosion, fractality, how it causes mind, how it causes gravity. We have the best solid physics on the planet right now, Grand Unified Theory, fractalgut.com. I'm so excited and have to say thank you to Mark Rohrbaugh, especially. We just made a film on this. And notice how that specifically underlines everything we're talking about today, from physicsofsoul.com, how to get coherent in the lucid dream and the astral. We know the frequency signature that makes you coherent for bliss. And in the lucid dream is the frequency signature predicted by Plankfire, fractalgut.com, meaning that we now can point to a very solid physics base that no scientist can criticize without actually having to seriously scratch their head. It's wonderful. And for example, our phi-ray.com, which Jake also used to help get coherent in the astral. Why? Because it helps the aura get centripetal. If you got access to a magnetic line cross in a stone circle in sacred space, it's wonderful. And that's precisely what we're talking about to get coherent. However, we can do that with plasma, with phi-ray, as we did with Theraphi. So the point is, now we understand the science behind, as science, as electrical engineering, what Jake was talking about all these densities. We now know exactly what that means. Density in the next dimension means more axes of spin symmetry has been superposed fractally and implosively and made that converging center point, where you implode then into the longitudinal array, which is the physics of the collective unconscious and the doorway to the astral and the lucid dreaming. It's all the longitudinal component, called scalar sometimes, of that electromagnetic. So suddenly there's a very contiguous physics here, which, if I may say humbly, is the most beautiful way, most romantic way to talk about spirituality using physics. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's loving. And it's not disempowering. Like, we got off on a pretty nasty track on this planet with miracle worship and personality worship because that sucked us into all kinds of parasitism, really bad news. And people thought, oh, well, if you're using physics, you can't talk about spirituality. No, it's the opposite. If you don't use physics, you can't talk about spirituality because all you got is woo-woo crap and there's no agreement possible. The language of agreement on this planet is a language of precision, and that's called physics. And when you can talk about your spirituality there, that's called becoming a shareable wave. Anyway, so pardon our enthusiasm.
That is fantastic, man. I love the way that you put that.
Yeah. So I'm glad everybody's smiling. I think that means a happily ever after.
Yeah, definitely.
So remember to check out Jake's Patreon and his
Yes.
YouTube channel. And Carlos will be with you soon in his
My
new
pleasure to meet you, Jake. And we'll
Yes,
keep
I
in
look
touch.
forward to,
Yeah,
spending some
we
time
will.
with you.
Sure.
More fun to come. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Blessings. Blessings.
Stay well.
Great smiles. See you in the astral. Bye-bye.